What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. I don't know if you wanted to see more of that picture, so I got to get it up. So it's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020, Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by DoveMed Plus Care. And since 2020, our team has reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. So, as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. I'm going to get it real quick because I don't got a lot of time with this wonderful person here. So, I'm going to get it quick. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also, follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And I'm not even going to go into anything long. We'll just get it right up. We have a new friend, maybe to you, but to me, a friend, Kamal Khera, Canadian Minister of Diversity, Inclusion, and Persons with Disabilities. What is going on?
Well, it's great to be here. Happy Friday, Dr. Vibe. It's always, always, always so good to see you. And any day, but particularly when it's Friday, because my week is ending really well. And I'm always thankful and grateful for the work that you do in supporting Canadians. And I'm so glad that you actually talk about all the things that you do in the beginning of the show, because I think it's important people recognize the tremendous leadership that you show in so many different ways for Canada and for people around.
I am truly humbled. Man, I think I need to get that clip and use it as a promo. All right, I may have to do that.
So
okay, all right. All right. Thank you for that great intro, but let's get to it because you don't have a lot of time. Today, you want to share something specific with us, and actually, you shared about it physically a few weeks ago, but you want to talk about the Government Canada launching Changing Systems, Transforming Lives, Canada's anti-racism strategy for 2024 to 2028. So let's go for it.
Absolutely. And Dr. Vibe, you were actually present, when we launched Canada's anti-racism strategy 2.0. I think you and I have certainly talked about what it means as a diversity. I mean, we're a diverse nation. Diversity is at the heart of what it means to be Canadian. Yesterday we were celebrating the Multiculturalism Day. And every time I talk about that day, I think about that is who we are. That is fundamentally what Canada is all about. But we also know racism and its devastating impact are lived realities for far too many Canadians. And that's why we're building on the work that we have been doing over the past numbers of years. And we launched Canada's new anti-racism strategy. So this new strategy represents $110 million commitment from the Government of Canada that is to, first and foremost, to enhance a whole of government approach. We're the first government to say, look, racism is real. Systemic racism exists in our institutions, and we as Canadians and leaders have a role to fighting that discrimination internally first and foremost, but at the same time do this work alongside communities. So this $110.4 million commitment is to covers 70 different federal initiatives internally. So, you're talking about from health systems to housing, to immigration, to employment, to labor, within our foreign affairs, really looking into a whole of government approach of all the biases and inequities that exist and how that impacts people, Canadians on the ground. But at the same time, this also means the $70 million that's going directly into communities, that is going to make sure that, grassroots is where it's at. I'm a big believer of, if you really want to have an impact, it starts on the ground and it needs to build from ground up. And that's how this strategy has really come around, working with community members right across this country with different stakeholders. So the $70 million that is going to directly into, Canadian to Canadians, people that are working on anti-racism initiatives, people that are bringing people together, people that are celebrating our diversity and what it means to be, a Canada. And I'm so proud to be able to do this work alongside such incredible groups, such incredible support from so many organizations, but particularly Black organizations that we really consulted with from ground up. So I'm super excited that we put this work forward because, I always think people think, oh my God, racism, you put this and racism is going to disappear. It's not. Like, racism is an everyday fact of people's lived experiences and people's realities every single day. And it is so important that we constantly be deliberate about fighting racism and discrimination in all its form. That is a commitment that I have, and working alongside you and so many amazing people right across this country, we get to do this work together.
Fantastic. Glad you gave me a chance to bring up some conversation pieces with the remaining amount of short time that we have. I asked you this during the press conference after, and I also want to ask you this now. What about efforts to get businesses and other levels of government involved in this initiative?
Yeah. And it's so important because as a federal government, you can only do so much. You can only, bring forward legislation, and you can certainly play a leadership role in saying that this is where Canada's national strategy is. But this work also needs to be working alongside, and, and you and I have chatted about this, the constant, particularly racism, systemic racism, anti-Black racism that exists in different levels of governments, exist in our, school boards where we perhaps in our institutions, in our education system, right? And we perhaps don't have direct links of the federal government to that, but it is the cultivation of working alongside communities. So I actually, once a year have a chance to be able to get together with every single provincial minister in this country to be able to talk about these issues. There are some provinces that are better than others, as you know, that are leading this work. And there's some, quite honestly, they have to do a lot more work. But I think unless we challenge people, unless we actually move forward, you can't make progress. One of the other things I want to talk about is you talked about businesses, and that is such an important piece because corporate Canada, the private sector needs to be part of the solution, and that's why we put in through our employment strategy the 50 challenge as well, to make sure that there's diversity on boards. That's something that we have been very deliberate about, and saying that, people forget, when you include people in your institutions, Canada actually win. Whether it is, racialized Black Canadians, or people of different diversity, but it's also, I'm also the minister responsible for disability. So we're actually really not stepping forward and making sure and changing narratives and perceptions of people around. Unless you include people in your institutions, in your businesses, you're leaving behind the talent that exists in Canada, and your corporation is losing. And when your corporation losing, Canada is losing. So this is a work that we're working alongside all members of government, particularly, I want to say, on the corporate side, working alongside my colleagues, Minister of Small Businesses, as well as Minister of Innovation and Industry, to really bring people along, because you can't do this work alone. But I think it's a constant, and I will, be candid, it's a constant fight to be able to do this work, because, as you know, there's this whole shift that's happening, which it really bugs me. As a person that fundamentally believes that inclusion and diversity is who we are, and there's people like Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party of Canada, quite frankly, that call diversity garbage. Like, that's fundamentally their words. Where you see people like leaders like him, like Pierre Poilievre, that are meeting with, far right extremist groups like Diagalong and Alex Jones, like people that fundamentally said, the Sandy Jones incident didn't happen. Like, these are the type of people that they're meeting with, where we are here working with communities to say we're going to do everything that we can, double down on the work that's happening, because it's so important. It's constant work. And I will tell you, working alongside some incredible organizations on the ground, alongside you, Dr. Vibe, like, we gotta have these conversations. We gotta continue to make sure we're moving the dial forward on this, and to make sure the progress that we're making. And I always say it's incremental progress, because I'll be the first one to say, like, there's so many challenges within our own, federal institutions, but it's about making that incremental changes. It's about moving the dial forward. It's about working with communities. And there are people on the other side that fundamentally want to take us really backwards. And I just don't want to let that happen.
Okay, I know our time is fleeing fast. I hopefully can get two more conversation pieces in. I don't know which one to lead with first. Okay. Can you share with us, either from your personal or professional journey, a story that makes you passionate about making sure that we do what we need to eradicating anti-racism?
Oh my God, this is wow. I think we've all been through, as racialized Canadians, I will say particularly. I think we've all have had many experiences uh, in our own personal journeys. And, I will share with you when I got elected in 2015, I was, as you know, I was the youngest member of parliament. I was only 26 years old. I was a young female and a woman of color. And, when you walked into places like the House of Commons, there were people that never looked like me. And, I walked alongside the walls of all the past MPs and politicians and ministers. There are people that didn't look like me. And I will tell you, for the number of times that even within, even after I became a minister, the number of times people took me as being a staffer for another white male colleague. Those microaggressions that you all feel. Like I'll be walking through, the security gate, and I'm walking with a bunch of my colleagues, and they'll say, "Oh, are you with him?" And I'll say, "No, I'm not with him. We are in it together. Like I'm not his staffer." I'll share an experience with you. I often share with young people because a lot of times, when young people think, "Oh my God, we don't know if we belong at this table." I was at a committee earlier on. This is, to credit to some of the clerks that have never seen people like me sit at these big tables with alongside other politicians. I sat on a table where we were talking about, I can't remember what we were studying at a committee meeting, and the clerk of the committee, he came to me and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, but I'm not sure if you know, but like the staffers sit in the back there." And I said, "Well, I'm not a staffer. I'm a member of parliament, and I was a parliamentary secretary at the time." So it's about, it's about biases, and there are some honest mistakes that people may not have, right? Like it's these biases that I think we constantly need to talk about. But I always say, own the spaces that you're in. And I fundamentally believe that in our experiences, we've done a lot even within our own institutions. Like those, the stories that I've showcased. There's a lot more people actually. If you look at within my caucus, like that actually they're very like we have a very diverse caucus in the Liberal Party of Canada. People that look, like you and I when you walk through the chamber. So we're changing the way people look at people who are representing Canada. And once that happened, there is a shift. Fundamentally, I'll tell you, when the Prime Minister made a very deliberate decision to make sure that there's gender parity in a cabinet. That never happened before. We have 50 women and 50 men in cabinet. That changed a lot of things. It wasn't just like a representation, because I will say representation matters, but fundamentally changes policies, because you move forward as a feminist international assistance policy. You move forward on bringing childcare. We talk about things that in these places no one ever thought about, because in the past it was, for the lack of better words, white old male that ran the country. So when you bring in people from diverse backgrounds, and I'm so incredibly proud to work alongside, someone like Marcy Ian, who is such a cheerleader and an amazing leader in the Black community. Someone like Michael Couteau, who's been an incredible leader in Ontario. Someone like Ariel Kaibaga, a young, Black woman who's the chair of the Black Caucus. Like Ahmed Hussein, like these are people that have fundamentally changed the way that people look at ways to make sure that we're doing this work together. When you see it, be it. And my message is to the young people and people, particularly of racialized Canadians, like this is work for you. This is a work that we're doing every single day. So people like you and I can continue to have this dial forward. And then we're not the only ones, because once we're in those spaces, we got to make sure that we're bringing alongside other people, because you can, you can't be the only one. You've lost if you're the only person that exists in those spaces.
Well, I've heard so many notifications while you were just sharing that I'm going to stop. I'm going to respect your time. I want to say thank you, as always, for taking the time to share with us. Again, there's a link on the screen if you want to read the press release, and it's also on all the platforms that people are watching live or on the replay. Do you have any other messages? Because I know you got to go, because I heard at least 2 notifications in the last minute. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
I just want to say thank you, Dr. Vai, for all that you do. And I just want to say that as a government, as a federal government, we're going to continue to do everything that we can to bring people together. Gosh, there's a lot of problems outside, outside our chambers and in the communities. But unless we are together and united in this fight against hatred, in this fight against discrimination, we won't succeed. So we really need to double on all this effort together. So I just want to say thank you for all that you do, Dr. Vibe, in bringing these conversations and bringing people like myself and others that are doing this incredible work on the ground, because it matters. It matters more than anything in the world.
Well, thank you so much. If you want to follow her on Instagram, she's very active on Instagram at Kamal Khera LIB. And always I'd like to say to especially you and your family, just don't manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourselves grace. And looking forward to seeing and hearing from you soon. So be well and keep the faith.
Thank you, Dr. Vibe. Take care.
Have a great day. And there's Kamal Khera. She has just left because you heard the notifications. So she's got a lot on her plate. So I want to say thank you so much for her taking the time. A few things that I want to say. If you want to subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, hit the notification button. So subscribe and hit the notification button. And at this time, we're about 30 subscribers away from 1,500. So if you're up to it, please subscribe. Also, like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. If you want to advertise your business, product, or service on the platform, please feel free to email me dr.vibe@thedrvibeshow.com. And if you want to watch replays of this epic conversation or any of my epic conversations, feel free. Dr. Vibe on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and my website, thedrvibeshow.com. As always, this is how I end off my epic conversations like this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And remember to give yourself grace. God bless, peace be well, keep the faith, and walk good.